To Bright Khumalo from Vestact on the markets, and we started by asking him what the main drivers are in global markets at the moment.
I think the big driver there was, like your colleague Nzinga said, Janet Yellen coming out and saying basically not going to be as aggressive in terms of raising interest rates in that developed market, which is the USA. Sort of, the market sort of cheered the news. Sort of, it's some sort of calm, if you want to call it that. And obviously some good results also coming out, banking being the first ones coming out on Friday. Them themselves didn't do so well, but the rest of the market did well. They cheered the news as well, so it's pretty cool. Yeah, and locally, you look at the local market, we've seen, like you're saying, the rand is strengthening, but that's on the back of the weaker dollar, and the weaker dollar obviously is on those weak economic indicators coming out from them as well, and obviously Donald Trump Jr.'s meeting with the Russians. So there's a lot of things playing, a part in that.
The stronger rand doesn't necessarily augur very well for our all-share index, does it? And I suppose that's why we're only seeing it sort of just marginally up relative to other markets.
Correct. The last time I checked, our market was pretty flat, except for the mining stocks that were up a lot because of halting of that mining charter, which we're going to get into just now. Like you're saying, we make basically most of our earnings outside of South Africa, meaning in other currencies other than South African rand. So strengthening rand is not necessarily a good thing for us. Yes.
And then moving on to the Chinese economy, which grew by 6.9% in the second quarter. That's like 0.1% more than the market had expected, but good news nonetheless. Did this feed into what we're seeing on the commodity prices today, where they're all up today?
Well, I'm not quite sure, but you might actually be correct by saying that, because they're the biggest consumer of such products, because they're still building quite a lot, which if you look at the GDP numbers, some of that growth comes from, building these new cities. But again, like my colleague said earlier on Sasha Nereshkin, that if you're China and you bring out all these numbers, damned if you don't, damned if you do, if they're positive numbers, it's they're not accurate numbers, they're fudging the numbers. But if they're not, good numbers, oh, I told you so, China is going to zero. So you don't know what's going on, you don't know what's good for China. But we like to be, have access to that market through Naspers, for example. We have Tencent there, and they operate in a space which is technology and gaming and entertainment, which is well diversified, and it's all in the internet. And Tencent, amounts to about 66% of basically all internet usage. You're most likely using a Tencent product or a Tencent app, or whether you're paying for your food, whether you're calling a Didi Shung, which is the equivalent of Uber that side, and whatever you're doing, you're probably using it through Tencent.
And then on Friday, we're still on the mining issue. The Chamber of Mines indicated that the DMR, although the DMR itself didn't come out and say it, that they're going to be holding off on the implementation of the mining charter. Do you think that has also fed sentiment on the mining stocks at the moment?
Of course, because when the mining charter came out and surprised all of us, the mining stocks were down. So it should be, to assume the opposite when it happens, right? So some of those gains are coming from that, and what's happening in the market is now discounting the fact that the mining charter is no longer going to happen. So it's adding back those returns that it took previously when the mining charter was said to happen.
Well, let's see what happens in September. Correct. After the legal action.
Yes.
And then this week is an important week for South Africa. Monetary policy, the Reserve Bank going to decide on interest rates. People talking about the possibility of a cut. Lord knows we would need one. But what's Vestact's view on that? Do you think we're likely to get one this time around?
Well, Lesecha Kganyago and his team, they're in a bit of a quandary, because it's a tough position to be in, because you look at our economy is not doing that well. You look at the operating environment is subdued. It's very hard to do business currently in South Africa because there's no growth. Where is it going to come from? Salaries are slowing in terms of increasing, inflation is going backwards, and all of these, indicate that, the economy should, the Reserve Bank should cut rates. But the problem is that, currently the political environment on the other hand. But you can also argue, and say, okay, Bright, I'm rebutting that by saying, but, the Reserve Bank is independent of any politics. They should be apolitical. They shouldn't look at what politics is doing and just do what their mandate says they should do. So let's wait and see what's going to happen there.
And if they were to cut any time now, and then the US Fed raises rates in December, then we're going to be in a little bit of a quandary, like you say, because of the carry trade, people choosing to invest in the US for better returns rather than South Africa.
Yeah, well, you know, there's always arguments about where to invest and how, but again, we can't really call it. It's like you're saying, in the future. We don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I'm sure the Reserve Bank is also thinking about that, which is going to make this rates decision very interesting.